Hi gang, Rob here. It is the afternoon of 7 April 2020. I am socially distanced. I'm in the bunker. I finished the sharpening for today. And I thought before I headed out with packages of goodies for my customers, I would do a quick from the sharpening bench review of this surprising big old tank of a folder. Yeah, some of you guys may know this knife, but I don't think it's super ubiquitous in the market at this point. This is from Zero Tolerance. It is the ZT0308, kind of a large-ish, sort of heavy-duty folder from ZT. The reason this grabbed my interest, not only did it sharpen like a dream, which it did. Got a big broad blade, cool swedge. Anyway, the reason it grabbed my interest, besides the fact that it was really, really nice to sharpen, is that it kind of harkens back to a time when I really appreciated Kershaw / ZT a little more than I have in the last few years. I think what Kershaw and ZT have always been great at is making well-designed knives with broad slicey blades and really, really ergonomic handles. And this really, in my mind's eye, brought me back to older Kershaws. I can't really remember names. There was, I don't know, man, like 9-10 years ago there was a Kershaw that I owned. It was a VG10 liner lock with black G10. It sort of had the same blade profile and the same vague handle shape. And this handle, you know, it's kind of got that rakish, but it kind of looks like it's moving forward, and it's really, really good in the hand. I guess there's a little Hinderer Eclipse influence in this. And with the mill pattern, you know, it kind of reminds me of some of the older Onion ZTs, and it's just got a lot of heritage going on in the design. Even sort of resembles the handle shape of a Link a little bit. It just kind of made me feel good when I looked at it. But what is it? It's a large folder. You got a 3 3/4 inch blade, a little more than 5/32 in thickness, 160 thousandths is what it's listed at. Blade steel is 20 CV. It's given a beautiful stone wash, unlike that grinder satin ZT has been into for a few years that I don't think is super attractive. This certainly is. It gives it a subdued appearance. It is a titanium frame lock with a steel lock bar insert and a very tiny, right above that screw, over travel stop. Kind of a skeletonized frame, which is an interesting styling cue. Now this knife comes with a natural gray titanium frame. My customer, Pat, has had this customized a little bit of a bronze ano on the titanium, some bronze anodized hardware. They come black oxide. And then he's replaced the standard ZT clip, which I'll roll in a picture of, with this titanium deep carry model, custom clip. Can't remember the manufacturer of that. You guys all, I'm sure, help me out in the comments. Stepped standoffs that are still black oxided. Then you've got a thin liner underneath the G10 on the show side, and that gorgeous coyote brown 3D machine G10. Just a beautiful knife. Interesting pivot, I think. It is a 1/4 inch pivot barrel. And then you've got kind of a stylized head on the male side of the pivot, and then a variation of the old 10mm nut. This doesn't look like a hex nut because it's not, but it does have two parallel flats that accept a 1/2 inch wrench. And then it's got that nice fine threaded Hinderer-esque male screw poking through there. So, boy, if you got a 1/2 inch wrench or a pair of pliers, you can adjust that pivot. Pretty cool. So how'd we do on the blade design? I just love it. It's kind of all belly back to about the last inch. It's ground nice and thin. I believe I sharpened this at 17 degrees per side with a little 20-inch micro bevel kiss. I did not have to touch the sharpening choil. They got that right as well. It does tuck back underneath the front of the handle a little bit, but it just takes a little pivot to your stone to be able to clear the front of the handle. Not a big deal. And the sharpening notch does clear the plunge grind. Build quality is standard ZT, which is to say, really, really good. The pivot is, of course, riding on the KVT bearing system, and it works flawlessly. Even with fingers on the lock bar, it's still flippable, although it is a very firm detent, but it doesn't death lock. Opens equally well with either hand. The handle's 5 1/4 inches long on the 308. And man, is it a dream in the hand. Really, really nice. A nice big swale for the thumb. If you're back on the handle, you can actually sneak forward and use the swale behind the harpoon. There's no forward finger choil per se, but if you anchor on the flipper, not a hard thing to do at all. In the hammer grip, it's excellent. In the draw cut grip, it's excellent. Flipper doesn't really intrude much, if any, in this grip. Then in that vertical draw cut, very comfortable. The butt does not dig into the palm in an uncomfortable way. And in the reverse grip, oh yeah, that sloped butt really, really works well with the thumb in that grip. Like that swedge, haven't really seen that before. Interesting shape, attractive, I think. This pocket clip carries very well. I would probably prefer a little more tension, but you know, a lot of deep carry clips have that issue. I'd probably stick with the factory clip on it if I were going to carry this knife. It is reversible, left or right hand tip up. Sorry about the sump pump there, boys. We've had a little rain in the last 12 hours or so. So, what would you do with this knife? Well, I guess when you look at its dimensions and its rather menacing appearance, you'd think sort of heavy-duty, large tactical folder. And I guess I can't argue with that. It's pretty large to carry as an EDC knife. It does weigh a robust 7 ounces. So yeah, probably your hard use, heavy duty tactical folder, I guess, would be the application for this. Wouldn't it be neat in a smaller version as an EDC knife? I think it might. And it seems like the proportions of the handle are pretty generous. I think they could do like an 80% direct downsizing of this knife and end up still with a really, really nice handle. I do believe. And just to wrap up, and I'll keep this video pretty short, my impressions of this knife are super positive. I did read on one retail website, I believe it was Knife Art, that they listed the designer as Rick Hinderer. I guess I can sort of see that in the handle shape, but it doesn't have a lot of elements we usually see in a Hinderer design. Maybe he did assist. Maybe he got a credit for a feature or a shape. But this knife really, to me, looks like zero tolerance doing what zero tolerance has always done best, which is just make really, really good, well-designed pocket knives. I think they kind of lost their way in the last few years, frankly. And it kind of started with the onion knives. I don't know that the onion ZTs were particularly useful. You know, they had classic Ken Onion lines, but I don't think they were the best designed knives Kershaw ZT ever made. And then we went through the Hinderer years. A lot of fine knives, but they have their own set of issues. Not many. They're very good. And then the Emerson line of ZTs were pretty doggone good. It was a little confusing because you could buy a lot better Emerson knife than an Emerson for less money if it said ZT on it. And then I think were the dark years for ZT. And man, I hope we're about through these. The Dmitry Sienkiewicz knives. Great Instagram knives. Not very useful tools. Horribly designed to be maintained. Not very sharpenable, especially back in this area. No need to go into that again. I've covered that ad nauseum on this channel. I think there are designers at Kershaw and ZT who know a little bit better how to make a good pocket knife than some of their guest designers have done for them. Yeah. So I think this kind of gets their identity back in a big way. Released early this year, the 308. I think it's going to be a success. I might have to get me one. Web pricing on this knife is $300. Will it probably come down? I imagine so. Will I probably get one in on consignment I might keep? Probably so. That's all for this one, my friends. A glowing review of a zero tolerance knife on the TheApostleP channel. How about that? Love it. That's all for this one. Grace to you and peace, my friends, from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. Remember, the word is sharp. Hope you all are taking care of yourselves, staying safe and healthy during the pandemic. You're in my prayers as always. Talk to you soon.